Hi, everybody. This is Martha Creek. This is another mentoring moment with Martha. And as a reminder, I'm here to be mentored. And if there's any mentoring that comes from me, God bless it. It's a bonus. And for all of you listening, all blessings to you as you continue to find greater purpose in your own life and to live with more purpose in your life. And I get to hang out with the coolest people on the planet. And you've got a mentor here with you today. Her name is Reverend Diane Robinson, and she is back home in her home state of Indiana after a long stint down in the sunny state of Florida. So thank you, Diane, my sister.
Thank you, Martha.
And friend and colleague, for taking the time today to bring forth your own wisdom and to share it here with these listeners in the video and the podcast. So I normally start with something like, if this message was being heard today or a week from now or 2,000 years from now. So at any time this message, what we're putting forth today on the podcast and video, was being heard, what message would you want to get to all of humanity? What would you want humanity to know?
I would want humanity to know to be kind to one another. That in this world that we're living in right now, that the thing I see that's lacking more than any other thing is respect and kindness to one another. So to be kind.
So there you go. And to think about then, what do you think causes, where do you think we left that, Diane? Something that basic, something that every faith tradition has encouraged us for, every meditation practice, every scripture, every meme, every anything encourages this. So where has it not taken hold? Where have we left it or lost it? How do we get so far out in the weeds, as Mama would say, on this? What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't want to be political, but I think that you see a division, that this country is divided. I heard the other day that when Ruth Bader Ginsburg was voted into the Supreme Court, the vote was 97-3. We'll never see that again. We'll never see, let me take that back, because I don't want to put that never out into the universe. It would be lovely to see again that there was that kind of support. But we're so divided, and we seem to be so right down the middle of the field divided, like 50% of the people are over here and 50% of the people over here. And they're at war with each other over nothing, over things that we can't control. So it's that division that has made people not be kind. And that division that has turned relatives against each other and friends against each other. And it's out of control what's going on in our world right now as far as being separate.
Yeah. So then whose job is it then? How are we going to get this notions of kindness and respect and honoring differences, respectful even in our disagreements, to stay civil and respectful? Like, what do you see if there's like a path, a way, a magic pill, a magic wand? Like, what's it going to take to restore that, to get us back to civility, to a priority around respect, even in our differences?
I think it's we the people, that we the people have been waiting on someone to lead us. In the presidential debate, I was waiting for either one of them to come forward with, here's a plan that we have. You're all suffering right now under this COVID stuff, and we have a plan, and here's how we're going to unroll it, and here's what it's going to look like. And neither side came forth with, here's a plan for us. So I'm seeing that we've been waiting on our leaders to take care of us, and they're not doing it. So that's the call to us then, we have to do it. We the people, we have to take care of each other. So more kindness in our everyday lives, our churches. I preach this more than ever on being kind and being God's hands and feet in this world. And what can we do to make the world a better place?
Yeah. What would you say then? Because each side, using your example of this, each side believes they're doing the work of God's hands and feet. So where's the hope in it that with both sides believing they're doing God's work, that they are God's hands and feet, and that they're upholding what God wants, what God intends, that they're the gatekeepers of that, although albeit polarized here, where's the hope in it?
Well, the hope in it is the God that's in all of us. The unity, the thread that's in all of us will come clearer. That we will see that, you know what, it happens. It happens in national emergencies. You know, when the World Trade Center was bombed and everybody was Americans for a little while, that we all came together with a united cause. So I don't really want there to have to be a horrible national disaster to bring us together. But, you know, I lived 37 years in Florida. Hurricanes brought us together. Hurricanes brought out the kindness in people, the helpfulness. You know, let me help you put up your shutters. You're not able to do it. You need to go to get medicines. Let me help you do that. And I haven't lived in Indiana in snowstorms for a while, but back in blizzard times, they would brought out the best in people because they want to help each other. So I think that human beings are innately good. Human beings are innately kind, but we've just shellacked over it with so much hardness to be right that we have forgotten who we are. So I think that what's going to make it happen is that we wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it's going to take to wake us up.
Yeah, and I don't know that anybody does. And
Yeah.
I love hearing from you, Diane, that it leaves us responsible for ourselves. And that's not popular though, that belief. It's like we've got some mentality of feed me, feed me, feed me. And that let somebody take responsibility, let somebody else have a plan, let somebody else who's going to do it versus saying, what am I actually going to do? What am I working on today? What difference am I making today? So what do you think it would take then for more and more of us to take personal responsibility and to stop looking at anybody or anything to be a source for us?
Well, it's going to take a wake up. And like I said, I don't know what the wake up will be. There's at this critical time of elections right now, you know, that we're like shortly out from election period. So all of this stuff is heightened and more. So I think that one of the things it would take is something to bring us back into unity. I don't know. I don't know what that something is. I don't know that it's someone. I don't know that someone could do it. But something that will bring us back into our unity and to bring us back into that, who we are.
I'm remembering, I grew up in Kentucky, as you know, Bug Tussle, Kentucky. You can look that up. Yes, it's on a map. It's near the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. And we had snow, and we had what we call blizzards, which the people in the Northeast wouldn't call a blizzard, I'm pretty sure. But schools would shut down and roads would shut down and this, that, and the other. And there was 3 or 4 men that would get out in these trucks of theirs. Now, not everybody had a truck back then. So to have a truck was something. And to have a truck that would go in snow is something, because this was before 4-wheel drives and that. And they drove around looking for people to help. Basically, they were out to push people out of ditches and to get them out of those snowbanks and to get them on their way and to clear the roads and all of that. And my heart is warmed again, but by thinking about that, that I used to think, what insanity, like get in and stay in was my thinking. That's what sane people do on days like this. And they were like, get dressed, get those coveralls on, get those thermal underwears on, get those caps with things to cover your ears on, and get out there and do something. Get out there and be a contributor in some way. And you wouldn't have, if you would have lined these men up and said, here's big helpers in here, pick these big helpers out, there would be no indicator of just how much of a helper they were to the kind of the common eye, so to speak. So I think it's important during these times to keep some kind of reference for that what you refer to as within all people, within all people is a spark of that is here to be a contributor that's out of touch with it, albeit some are out of touch with it and unaware of it, and that we've got some gaps, for so to speak, in mental health and other psychological health and even spiritual health and certainly physical health, and that I have to keep hope alive even as an eternal optimist. And it's also bit me in the butt many times because I get very naive then about what the whole of the human spectrum represents, to believe that we're all innately good. And it's like we're also in a species that kill one another.
Yeah.
Thousands, millions of people that's been killed by ourselves, by each other. So we're just a hair above an animal in our evolutionary process. And I cannot deny that.
And that hair swings to the other side every once in a while.
Yes. And it's not going to serve me to deny that exists.
Right.
So that then I'm not sensible or practical about how I approach this. So one of my teachers, I study in the family systems theory of thinking and clergy and that. And one of the writers wrote in one of the books called Extraordinary Leadership. And the writer is Dr. Roberta Gilbert, if you want to look this up, listeners. Extraordinary Leadership and Extraordinary Relationships, and that they believe that clergy had there was the most hope that clergy could have the effect on humans that was going to cause more of a societal progression instead of societal regression. And as I say that, and I share that with clergy, it's like the skin just crawls off, because it's like, I can't take that responsibility that I'm going to be the one that prevents a societal regression. And I want not to lose my hope about it, or to lose my sense of calling about it, that whatever we do, talk by talk, call by call, prayer by prayer, message by message, whatever we do is contributing one way or the other, whether we ever see it or not. So what's your thoughts on that, as far as what role clergy can play or ministry can play in progressing a society, evolving a society versus regression?
When you were talking, it reminded me of the saying by Saint Teresa of Avila, is that now Christ has no hands on this earth but mine, and no feet but mine, and that we are the hands and feet that will do this work. And I resonate with that writing, because I think it's very true that we are the ones that we've been waiting for, that we've been doing this work all this time to get ourselves enlightened enough that we can share that light then at times of darkness, that we can bring light to the world. So darkness is just the absence of light. So when we bring more light into the world, then we begin to heal ourselves and others. So I think that clergy are being called to do what we've been in training to do, which was not so much just to keep a church going, but this training that we've been doing is for this time, that we are being called to rise up even farther. And I think it's interesting, because I know in myself, I have to work harder to not fall into a depression or to not fall into negative thinking, because the time that energy is a strong pull right now. It's a very strong pull. So, for me, it's keep yourself lifted up so that you can continue to lift others up. So more self-care is needed than ever before.
Yes. And I think that's the summary of it for me, that it is not a concept of self-care, but true self-care. And that that we hear that as something besides narcissism. Like it's about me, 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 me. And it's like, it's about me and what it's going to take to keep me functioning. And to
Right.
keep me able to shed light and to keep me able to innovatively think and to resource and that. So whatever it's going to take to keep my functioning up is my responsibility. And yes, it includes self-care. And that means getting more practical and essential and mindful about what is a true yes for me and what is a no for me. And to know that I'm not here to match somebody else's stamina or to match somebody else's ideas, that I'm here then to care for whatever gifts I've been given and whatever it's going to take to bring those gifts out into the world and for the world. And anything that I'm doing that's beneficial to me is beneficial to the planet, to the human evolution. So one of my favorite phrases came years ago from a little cartoon depiction, a cartoon character, whatever you would call her, called Mary Englebright. So there was these cards and things, and what she said was, snap out of it, just snap out of it. And I would think about that today as I came in with you with the call for you, honey, to do this little section on what would you want if you were that and you were encouraging us today to snap out of it. What would you encourage us to snap out of?
Falling into the trap of, I think that we need to be cautious. So I want to start out right by saying that I don't think that the COVID is something to laugh at or to not take seriously. But I think it's also not something to let paralyze us. So there's a fine line in being responsible, to wear a mask, to social distance, to do all the things that we're being called upon to do, and then also to not let fear take over so that we paralyze ourselves. So it's a fine line. It's a fine dance in there. And even doing churches, our measure, my measure in the past of a successful church is how many people, how much money. How many people, how much money, and what good can we do? What good have we done? And so you can't go by that. Our numbers are, you can't go by any of those guidelines. I'm in a new ministry for me now. And so how do I do what needs to be done and respect all the guidelines, respect all the people? It's an older congregation, even than the one I left. So, you can't put them in danger. So it's finding a new way to do ministry and a new way to evaluate how well you're doing in ministry, because the old ways don't work anymore.
Yeah.
So the old ways of doing ministry and the old ways of evaluating it don't work.
Mm-hmm. Well, that may be your answer then. Snap out of thinking that the old way is going to be the new way.
Yeah, because it won't.
That the old way even exists anymore, that we're already past the old way of doing it and the old way of thinking about it.
Well, just look at how in that first week or the middle week of March, which was the week I turned 70 and had planned to have my good going away party that week when that all bit the dust. But in that week, most of us ministers had to learn how to do Facebook Live or Zoom or YouTube, or, we had to figure out how to do church online. And most of us don't have brains that do that, So the struggle in finding a new way to do church, what else works? What else works? So I love that you're doing ministerial groups that we can share ideas. I miss that and not having my Gold Coast ministers group, because we all need to share ideas. What's working? What isn't working? What could we do differently? How can we expand? How can we still reach people who are sitting at home and who are lonely and scared? What can we do?
Yeah, and further and further isolating. So, well, yeah. Let me know, honey. What are we going to do? So we'll do what we can do today. I know I will. I know you will. I know you listeners, that part of this podcast and series is brought to demonstrate that there's those of us out there that's living on purpose. and that's living with purpose. And whatever we're doing, we're bringing purpose to it and believing that we're actually contributing in some way. And it ain't clean and pretty and all that. There's a messy middle in this, so that you're encouraged then, listeners, to look at whatever you're doing today with kindness, generosity, with a new hope for you, that today the podcast is offered to water your own plant of yourself, to say that you too matter and that you too are on purpose here. And it may not be this idealistic, big, grand purpose that you thought, but it's the purpose you're actually in. And that whatever you're doing then, I encourage you also to keep an element of joy in it, to make sure whatever you're doing has an element of joy, and to be sure, if quantum theory is true, that everything you do to benefit you has benefited the whole. And we surrender to it and begin again. So Diane, thanks again for this time, honey. Put here on the recording, if you want people to contact you at the church or through your email, put that on the recording here so they know how to reach you if they're resonant with this and they want to contact you.
Great. Well, my email is unitydiane, UNITYDIANE @gmail.com. My phone number is area code 561-628-0999. And I would love to talk to any of you and share your ideas. And, you know, we're all in this together. And that's what I really know, is that we're in this together, and it's together that we'll be able to come out of it.
Yeah. Amen to that. And my favorite thing.
What's your thing? Together we can do what I cannot do myself.
Together we can do what I cannot do by myself. Together we can do what cannot be done alone. So together we can. It's been a strong message today, honey, and my heart is full with gratitude for you and thanks, and all blessings to you and to you listeners. MarthaCreek.com to contact me, and all blessings to you and whatever you're about, and be about it. Godspeed. See you next time. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.